anywhere but. And they went through 2-0. Really convincing performance from them. And we're here on the Intel Analysis Desk now to break it down statistically. With me is the premier CSGO analyst. It is, of course, Duncan Thorin Shields, and DDK and Semler join us for this one. Right then, let's start with Cloud9's performance.
Well, guys, I mean, strike one, Team Liquid run out. Strike two, Cloud9 are out. You get 3 strikes before you're all out for the top. Actually, I don't know how baseball works.
And a miss. Yeah, who watches baseball, mate? Who watches
it? We don't know.
We don't know.
But yeah, one NA team left. This one, though, I mean, I kind of feel for Cloud9 in as much as I looked at the map veto and I was like, where are they going to go here? They kind of got an all-right veto. Like, Overpass was the one they had the chances on. They couldn't really get Dust 2. But when I look at the series overall, I don't know how they thought they were going to win this. I mean, it kind of summarizes it that they did take that tactical timeout on Overpass. They were like, this is like where we need to get it together. We need to figure out the plan. And they came out and nothing was any different.
No, that's the strong issue here, is that it just feels like on both maps, Cloud9 are competent. It's just that you don't have the aim to make up the difference for how Fnatic are good on them.
Competent
there wasn't any way, exactly. Competent isn't going to cut it. That's not going to win you the tournament, and you're going up against one of the two-time tournament major champion this year, right? So you have to be pretty good. And well, Cloud9, yeah, pretty good, and Cloud9 just didn't have it. I like how Crims was trying to, trying to make up for the fact that Shroud wasn't the Shroud that we needed, or Cloud9 needed. Well, we as a North American as well, but like that North America needed right now.
I have you as an honorary Euro, mate.
I mean,
you're in our crew.
It's like Sean Gares. Yes, Sean Gares stepped up, but really, if Sean Gares is the one that's top fragging on the team, that's an issue. You really do need to have that Shroud Skadoodle combo rocking.
Well, this is where you come in, Dan. Shroud, he was, I would even go as far as to say, immensely disappointing in this series.
Yeah, I mean, not just Shroud for me, actually, as well, because I felt like, I made the point before, right, when we went into Dust 2, felt like always step behind was Cloud9 strategically. They were never in the right places, and the players weren't hitting their shots. So, okay, lose Dust 2 pretty heavily. I actually felt like going into CT side of Overpass, they're actually a step ahead of Fnatic. They started off very aggressive. The problem was, despite that being very, very, very good for them, Skadoodle was not hitting his shots. He was taking big risks. He was in the place to do them. He couldn't get the star performance. Shroud again, also in those spots as well, couldn't get the star performance. And 7 kills there. This is your big fragger.
And this is the Dust 2 statistics. Yeah, this is the statistics from Dust 2. You can see 7 frags there from Shroud. Everyone else has at least double that.
Here's the key thing to remember as well. I kind of build it as like I knew coming in here, Shroud hasn't been so hot recently. Shroud and Skadoodle's had his problems at the majors, so I kind of tried to give you a lifeline by saying, oh, but it's okay. Against Fnatic, that matchup he's doing very well. He's been the Fnatic killer in the past. That's what's allowed Cloud9 to be close in the ESL final, and then to almost beat, to actually beat them at the Faceit semi-final. But the big problem here is, Shroud had 7 kills there. I mean, when he played them on Dust 2 in the final of ESL, ESEA Pro League, that was the one where he was hard carrying and it's everyone else on his team let him down. He was like 30 kills or something. You can't have 7 kills if you're going to be called a star player. That almost never happens to the great players. Like, I mean, this has just happened too many times for Shroud. Not 7 kills level, but just average level, and now just to be a complete breakdown. And when your team needed you the most, they were lacking for firepower, and he didn't show up.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. And contrasting Fnatic on Dust 2, I mean, it's interesting. It's not like their go-to map anymore. It's one that they're indifferent about. They can play it. We all know they have good results on it. But they looked really, really good. And it's not like Cloud9 haven't had good results on Dust 2 in the past, but Fnatic were just superior in every department.
And one of the things, the reason why I noticed when Fnatic started to get good on Dust 2 and started to make it more of a primary map they were going towards, is as the meta, you notice now nearly all the top teams in the world are teams that are very good on T-side. Fnatic they haven't quite got to the level of the TSM, the VP Envies in that sense, but they've gotten into that meta themselves. That's why they've had success. And this is one of the maps where they can be very good on T-side, and famously, that's what Cloud9 found out in that final I was referencing before, where they had this insane spree of something like 9 rounds to bring the game back and then go in overtime, and then they went overtime. So T-side has become a focus for them on this, but that's actually why I think they've gone to Dust 2, because they've never been known for super in-depth executes with like a set flash and a set smoke and Sky always follows. They're more like a team play, looser style in that sense, making like the call in the middle of the round. It's the ideal map to do that on T side.
Yeah.
You set up, you feel things out, the in-game leader makes the call, do we go middle up to the catwalk, do we go towards B? And famously, they've always had that good split on the B, and it's still there to this day.
Well, that's why we've always said that Dust 2 is like that, is more of the scrimmy map, because you know you can have that looser style, it can actually play into it. A lot of it comes down to can you hit your headshots, and Olafmeister showed up in that first half. He determined the pace, and we were talking about how with the T-side start on both initial maps there for Fnatic, that it was pretty clear that they wanted to be the ones to control how this map was going to go, and if just a couple of them start waking up and landing the headshots, it's going to make Pronax's job so much easier to do that. There's going to be so much pressure on Sean Gares at that point to come up with a solution that never came because his guys weren't actually up to snuff. They couldn't go toe-to-toe. So when all things aren't even, Fnatic, if they're up here and you're the underdog in that match,
they almost like it that way because it plays to their individual strengths.
I mean, one thing that actually just kind of set the tone in that sense for the series was I remember there was a round where Sean Gares got the drop on them, and a CT he'd pulled outside of B tunnels on Dust 2, and he was waiting for the guy to come into the tunnels. He was thinking he's just going to shoot this guy in the back. He had the drop on him, he'd got the right positioning, and even then Olafmeister just did a snap 180 and headshot him instantly. So like that kind of shows even when they did have a good setup, the fragging wasn't on their side. And so as a result, it doesn't matter if you have the right tool, if you don't have the technique to use it, if you don't have the force behind it, it's not going to be effective.
So Dan, you were on Clip Patrol. We've got it loaded in to our VHS.
All right, well,
the tape is there, so talk us through it.
This is one of those moments where Cloud9, they did have a few opportunities in this match, and you'll see this is a spot where they got into a good opportunity. They had a pull round. They're facing a situation where they will get economically reset, and Sean Gares is able to actually get a couple kills with the AWP to survive. But then Pronax is able to just single-handedly wipe out their save, and because of that, they have nothing going into the next round. They're at the end, they're back to $1,400. They just spent everything. So this is a very key round for Pronax to just throw that key Molotov in. He read the situation really, really well, and he just executes both of them. And Pronax, I mean, this guy, he also had a lot of really crucial clutches in other moments where Cloud9 looked like, okay, they get the bomb down, they can start actually getting some momentum back because they've been damaging the economy. Cloud9, they can maybe, Fnatic, they can maybe force that eco, but boom, Pronax gets that one-on-one clutch and gets the defuse. So Pronax was very key, actually. He's a bit of a sleeper in the sense sometimes on the team. He always is that way with all those names, of course. But again, this guy can really turn up just as an in-game leader and a fragger sometimes.
Well, I was really concerned about Pronax as well going into this tournament because there's been a lot of talk about how he has a tendonitis now in his mouse hand, and so he's actually gone around, like when he travels to events, he has a glove on now where he's just trying to use or like take as much stress off of his wrist as possible. Yeah. So I mean,
he also does mess kids up.
Yeah, I mean, it's great for the back
on the down low.
The fact that Pronax is still, he has this injury, that's going to have a mental strain on him because all of a sudden he's worried about, whether he's actually going to be able to get those kills. The fact that he can come into the server and actually manage to get those clutches. Yeah. All right. Okay. So there you go. I'm going to talk to you.
I just hope when he's mousing, he doesn't get a twinge going.
Yeah, I did. It was so obvious, but okay.
I know.
Right?
Well, I don't even know why that's happened. Anyway, the point being, though, I was going to make a point about how Pronax, in this Fnatic miracle era, he's clutching more and more statistically.
Oh, yeah.
Used to be the fact, I mean, just inarguably, if Pronax was the last guy alive, Fnatic don't win this round. Now, when he's alive, he's added clutching to his game. 1v1, he's got a very high percentage. 1v2, more than capable.
Oh, good.
Well, I mean, now that some of his stars do fall off sometimes, now he can't always rely. For example, JW is the most notable one. He's picked it up a bit at this tournament. Pronax himself has had to look at the man in the mirror and just say, you have to do it as well, mate.
We've been doing so well.
I tried to hold it together.
Okay, that wasn't bad. Get us away from this. The next clip.
So we're going back to this point here where, again, Cloud9 a step behind, making these strategical adjustments, and Fnatic have been dominating them on long, just all over the place. And finally, there's a lot more emphasis put directly to counter that from Cloud9 into long. We've got Freakazoid here, he's got some support as well from Shroud, and this is actually going to allow them to win the rounds. This is one of those times when it does actually work out for Cloud9. You're seeing these adjustments, but again, the problem is, of course, even though they win this round, it's too little too late in many senses.
Yeah, I mean, it was, like I say, just again, it's just kind of same old problem that we've seen when Cloud9 come up against superior opposition, sometimes equal or inferior opposition. Their firepower just seems to be really lacking, and on top of that, that problem is compounded by a lack of coordination. And, the one player that's actually sort of improved himself immensely, Sean Gares, fragging now, which was the one thing we were like, hey, he's the dead weight on the team. He's the guy we're all talking about moving to coach. He's the guy that's actually doing the fragging for them. So Cloud9 have all sorts of problems. Anyway, we're going to show you our Dust 2 MVP. There he is. Minus a hat. It's not often you see that.
Took off the lucky hat for the photo.
Yeah.
You know, that's like he just wears that hat. He was trying to, you know, he was using like the monster hat or something like that. Nope. As soon as they started struggling a little bit, Crims went right back to the original.
Yeah, but Crims just wonderfully consistent again. It's interesting, actually. He went through a slight slump by his high standards in the team. There was speculation, or is he retiring? Are they going to bring in another player? There was all this kind of idle chatter. And again, since then, I think he's just gone back to his consistent best. You're never going to see a frag movie from this guy because they're not, you know, super interesting kills. But he gets 1, he gets 2. He always does his work. He always puts in a shift. Just a fantastic player. Now I guess we'll start focusing on Overpass. So this is where Cloud9, you think, right, they've got their pick. They're gonna do a job here on Fnatic. They must have something up their sleeve. Actually, it just looked like they were competitive, but that was about all you could really say, and the statistics kind of bear that out. Again, you can see Shroud not really there. Nothing's your top fragger.
The thing is, as well, is that the crazy thing here for me is that they had so much going for them on the CT side, actually. Like, again, like Sean Gares was making really good calls, to be honest, because one of the ways that, you know, you need to deal with Fnatic on a map like Overpass is you can't be afraid. You got to actually take map control, because you want to start the game by trying to shut down some of their star players, because Pronax will want to lose star to begin with, because that's how, you know, you usually flesh out a start of a T side. We'll play the defaults, we'll let our star players, you know, work the map and see if they can make it happen. Boom, we'll just keep going from that. So they're taking map control with Cloud9. But the problem is that Skadoo was missing like forward shots. You know, he was getting into positions where he can take these forward shots. They're taking sewers away from Fnatic. So they're doing all the right things, but the frags weren't coming. Yeah. And that was a really big issue. They did then make a shift as well to get ahead of the game and say, okay, we're going to start playing passive, and that did start working out for them. And they still got 9 rounds, despite Sean Gares having to make all the kills, and he was so clutch on a lot of the retakes as well. So it's actually just completely mental that they didn't get more rounds there.
You've picked out a clip for us that I think underlines your point. We're going to load that in now. So again, Dan, explain the significance of this.
So this is an overextension that we're seeing now, because, you know, of course, Skadoo, he wants to get aggressive. But this is the adjustment from Fnatic. This is what's going to cause Cloud9 to start playing much more passively, because they realize that, hey, we're getting into these spots which could work for us, but now Fnatic's starting to throw the smokes in, they're starting to get these kills, and now we're seeing Cloud9 getting caught out. Then this is as the subsequent round where, you know, they're getting this situation on the anti-eco, and Sean Gares, this is where he starts really getting that momentum, where he really starts stepping up, and this is the point at which they start playing very passively, and they start allowing the bomb to go down. Something you'll notice on this half is that lots of bombs went down, like almost repeatedly on both bomb sites. But the retakes came in, they just allowed themselves to hold, and they didn't rely on the aggression anymore, which should actually work for them. But they weren't hitting the shots.
Look who's doing the damage, right? It's Sean. You know, just you know, crazy situation for him to be in. I mean, Fnatic though, when it got to 12-12, we all said Cloud9 took that time out. You think, okay, well, this is where maybe Cloud9 are gonna pull away and leave Fnatic in the dust. They must have a ace up their sleeve. Actually, from that point onwards, if anything, it seemed to sort of calm Fnatic down, not Cloud9.
I mean, indirectly, Cloud9 gave Fnatic a timeout. Yeah. We know what happens when Fnatic gets times out. So, yeah, the problem there is, when you have the tactical timeout, that should be such a great weapon for a leader on T side. That should be where you figure things out. You have a little bit of time to discuss, like, oh, maybe there's miscommunication going on, what we're trying to do here. But nothing really changed. It's like you'd be very hard pressed without interviewing one of the players to figure out what did they try to change, what did they think was the issue, because it seemed to me like they went back into the server, they were just trying to do the same things again, and if I had to guess, I don't even think they had a plan. I think it was just one of those things of like, oh, we can still do it, guys, like, you know, like generic pep talk stuff, and that's not going to get it done, because when you think about some of these Fnatic timeouts that lead to the amazing streaks, I think sometimes that is like, oh, this guy's getting a bit too, you're going a bit too aggressive here, just go slow with the team or something. It's actually a tweak in game, whereas that's maybe a bit lacking there, I think, on the Cloud9 side of things.
Yeah, and going into that second half, I mean, we saw that, you know, 5 rounds lost straight away there, and there was this just general struggle, and Cloud9, they just didn't know what to do on the T side. And this is like this common situation over past. Like, you see the really skilled teams, for example, they want to play a little bit more slowly and find aim battles and stuff. That's how you can really exert your skill advantage. So going A slow and all this kind of stuff, clearing out all the map control, that's a good way to approach it. Cloud9, they realized that, okay, the best way for us to do this is actually almost playing a bit gambly, going for those B executes. And that's where they started getting the rounds, but then that's not really a stable solution. And Fnatic were allowing them to almost undo themselves by the fact that they were having performance issues. So Fnatic just did the standard thing that a better team should always do, and let the team that's having a struggle basically make the mistakes and just punish them instead of overextending themselves.
Yeah. So we got the second map MVP, which we'll bring up on your screens for you now. Was actually Pronax, who did indeed have a very impactful game, just in terms of the scoreboard as well as in-game leadership skills. And you know, we've talked. It's like you say, Dan. I often think of him as a bit of a sleeper as well. It's very easy to forget about him. You've got this star-studded lineup where everyone's skill ceiling is so unbelievably high. Pronax is the glue that holds that together, and what he's actually done in terms of just developing his own skill set, adding a bit of fragging to his ability. It's great to see that a player as experienced as him can still develop even this late in the day.
And develop in this lineup as well, because this is now going on to be one of the longer standing lineups that we've had in CSGO, and to dominate for as long as they have as well. That's impressive, but then you always have to wonder, you know, grass is greener on the other side. These sorts of things starts to sneak in. If you've been together long enough, it's like a relationship. You're going to hit that bump in the road and you have to work it out. And so it seems to me after that bump was hit, where Fnatic, there was, you know, that's where we saw a dip in their game and there was a lot of infighting. Pronax has become stronger because of it, because now I think that the team have finally unified, and now he can really feel confident in his calls, because he knows, okay, everybody's behind me, there's the trust, boom, I can read, I can focus on my game. I don't have to worry about whether, you know, this guy's thinking something else, or he's going to go ahead and take an unnecessary risk, not JW, but somebody else. You know, I think that's where we saw like the rebirth of Pronax. You know, they got over that bump, and now Fnatic is his. And it's just like we saw with Sean Gares with Cloud9 actually in that period, where he finally said, this is it, this is my team, and you're going to do it my way. We saw that rise, except that, well, Fnatic, they just keep on going.
I think there's a realization, though, you know, we talked about it yesterday with Titan as well. Existence trying to be a bit looser, add some fragging to his game. The day of being a dead weight in-game leader and not contributing to the scoreboard, you cannot exist like that and succeed in this tournament.
I like the pun, yeah. So anyway, I agree.
Where's the jersey?
So here's the thing. When you think about these guys now, yeah, we're in a situation where if you're Fnatic, it's not that Fnatic, they don't win now because they're not hungry enough. Like Red Eye kind of alluded to this in an interview, like what keeps you motivated to want to win? You've won 3 times, why do you want to win a 4th one? Because those are in the past. You can't relive that, you can't go back in time. All you've got is the tournament in front of you now. So it's definitely not a lack of hunger. I think Vugo, I think it was, said in the interview before they came to this tournament, like, we want to win everything still. And I believe them. It's just, for them, it's more like the mind's willing, but the body isn't, you know. They haven't quite got all the pieces the same way. It's not quite as coordinated. You saw this in this match. There were chances for Cloud9 and Overpass, but they still have enough quality to come through. I mean, the analogy I would give is, if you've had a really hot girlfriend and then she leaves you, and then you get another really hot girlfriend, she leaves you. This is my problem in life, actually, but I keep going.
I was going to say, we're getting into the mind of Thorin.
But the thing is, it's not like you then go, well, I've had a lot of hot girlfriends, so I'll just have an average one now and just go that, you know. Or if you've had a really nice chocolate cake, you don't go, well, I've had a lot of great chocolate cakes in the past, just give me a bad one. No, every time it's reignited, you're reinterested, you've still got the drive to want to get there, you know. So I still think they want to win this time. They still probably somewhere believe, like, you know, we've done these miracle comebacks, we can do it. Problem is, at the moment, you look at their form, and even in these wins they've had, they haven't looked spectacular. There's still some problems for Fnatic, even in spite of the fact they're moving on.
We'll bring up the series statistics now, but yeah, just to keep it sports for a moment, Thorin, and get away from your love life. Roy Keane, legendary Manchester United midfielder, said the exact same thing. He said the joy of winning lasts that evening. You wake up the next day, you know, what's after that?
That was much like my relationship.
Yeah, only winning. Yeah. So I've been told. Anyway, these are the kind of overall statistics, which are averages. So they're the average kills across 2
Crowd
maps.
averaged 12 kills a map. That just won't cut it, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and well, this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, average is the appropriate word there. It's just not good enough at this level. And I know Cloud9 are going to be disappointed. I certainly don't want to pile on. That's not my style. But I mean,
but we have to be real here.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more.
Richard, think about this. So the core of the team here, and I realize core usually should include the stars, but I mean the players that have been together the longest in Cloud9. So you've got Shroud, Nothing, Sean Gares. Have now had 4 majors in a row. They haven't gotten out of the group stage.
Yeah.
This year, they haven't managed it at all. Yet this year, and the 3 times they've failed to get out the group stage, Luminosity, Fallen, those guys from Brazil who don't have any of the advantages, they don't have a 6 salary, they've made it to 3 round of 8.
And it's not just Luminosity. I mean, we've seen an upset pretty much every major, right? You know,
seen
Penta, right? They got out.
Yep, Penta.
You know, and you think about all the resources and the talent in that lineup compared to this. I agree. I don't think you can make those excuses.
There are no more excuses for Cloud9. Regardless, it doesn't matter about the monitor, it doesn't matter about the PC, it doesn't matter about the time you're playing, it doesn't matter about anything, because everybody else here, this is the real killer for me. Like, it's not even about the in-game stuff. It's just like they constantly look for excuses everywhere. And sorry, Cloud9, I am going to throw you under the bus because it's tiresome. It's tiresome because you know who doesn't whine? Envy. And yes, okay, there's a difference in fragging power and skill, and yes, but they'll play in any conditions without making a peep. They've had loud static in their headsets that other teams immediately complain about, but Envy played an entire best-of-3 series with that. They couldn't hear each other talk, but they still dominated, right? It's the mindset. It's the complete shift in mindset.
Belief,
you're
right?
not entitled to anything. You're not entitled to anything
That's
here.
the great point you're making there. It's not that it's wrong to have these complaints or that these things don't affect you. No, if your comms aren't working, if something about the hardware's wrong, that will affect you. The difference is the great players, it happens and they don't go, right, well, there's my get out of jail free card. I can now lose the game. It doesn't matter, because at the end I go, it doesn't count anyway. Now everyone played those conditions. The great player wins the match anyway and goes, oh, and I had these problems here, but that's not an excuse. They played great, I played well, and I won.
Yeah, you let the challenges fuel you.
Exactly. Fnatic first half on their first best of one in the group stage. Yeah. First half they couldn't understand each other. There was an audio issue that was going on.
Been drinking, of course.
But they couldn't actually make out what was being said, which is why they looked a little dicey in the first half. But still, like, they didn't talk about that. They didn't pause the match and say, oh wait, no, stop, solve this for us. No, they did their work. Sure, it was a little harder, but then they brought it up afterwards once the job was done. That's the difference in mindset between a championship and, you know, right now a European team and any other team. Is the fact that right now it just really feels like some teams are looking for excuses and looking for easy ways out, and it's really frustrating.
It's the entitlement factor. It's the fact that if that happens, it's like, how dare this happen to us? This doesn't count. Let me tell you here now, Cloud9, these all counted. These majors all counted. This is history. This is your career. Yeah. So you've got to turn it around. You can't let this happen again.
Well, let's have a look at the series MVP. Let's bring that up for you guys at home. And not really a surprise. I think Crims was the best player on the survey, just in terms of consistency, pure consistency, which is what he does. Dan, I'll bring you in at this point. You may wax lyrical about Crims. I know you've got lots of good things to say about him.
Yeah, I mean, well, Crims was actually one of the players heralded as the most efficient player ever, but almost one of the players to kind of drop into, not insignificance, but on the lineup, you know, he started to get, you know, overshadowed a little bit, but he was always that consistent fallback for the team. You know, you always have JW's the wild card, but you know, the Crims, Olafmeister kind of 1-2 punch, Olaf's the explosive guy then in that combo. You know, this guy has been, you know, through a thick and thin with this team, but he's coming back to resurgency lately, which is awesome to see. He's now becoming this guy that's like, you know, the Bondic for Flipside, or, you know, the Fugly for Liquid. He can always come back in. He can always take these crazy, you know, situations, 1 versus 2, 1 versus 3, 1 versus 1. He's always going to have a high consistency and reliability. And you know, because we're seeing that again, it actually gives me hope that Fnatic can actually have a good tournament here, despite, you know, some recent performances. So, like, out of all the players that could be performing well on the team, it actually, you know, I'm most excited for Fnatic now that it is Crims that's stepping up. Even though, as you said, Overpass they were struggling, T-side they were struggling, he didn't feel comfortable on the map, yet still he's able to deliver a good result for the team.
I mean, he's always the rock, isn't he? He's the foundation it's based on. I mean, difference of opinion, I always think of Flusher as the fugly one in Fnatic.
I mean, just to follow on from that, you know, when you talk about personality,
that was a little weak.
When you talk about personality archetypes, right? You know, there's people that you would look at like, who would you want to go to war with? Who would you want on your side when the chips are down? Crims, obviously. He never gets emotional. You never see him getting upset, angry, shouting, raging. Just doesn't matter. Nothing phases him. I mean, you used to say, is this guy a robot? He never seems to show any emotions. We're starting to see him come out of his shell. He's being a bit more media-facing these days, doing interviews and stuff. But that's the guy I want in my corner more so than anyone else on Fnatic, because, you know, he's just going to knuckle down, get things done. And he you know, he's digging Fnatic.
And he's got no ego whatsoever.
Yeah,
this is the one guy I bet who's never complained about a position on the map. Someone didn't back me up, he just plays.
This is actually a really big deal as well, because when you're mixing like roles on the team, you need to make sure that you've got players that aren't overly emotional. That's like actually a really big deal, because you can be in spots where you need one player to be getting frags. And like, if you can choose between, you know, is it this guy that gets the eco frags or this guy, you know, meaningless frags that don't have any impact on the match. You want it to be, you know, let's say the guy that's like the emotional player that needs that boost. Crims is not that guy. He's going to be able to perform, as you said, and that's a really huge deal, and that's one of the reasons why he is the bedrock in many senses for the team.
Well, look, it was great to get your thoughts on it all, gentlemen. It's a great start to the third day here at this major. Obviously, I'll see you all a little bit later, but that's it from the Intel Analysis Desk now. Now, also just to mention, we have, of course, got coverage partners, and if you want to keep up to date with everything that's going on, of course, it is a work day or indeed a school day, you can go to theScore eSports.com, download their app, stick it on your phone, keep up to date with everything that's happening here. Now, as we did promise, we have got another amazing game for you. This is going to be G2 eSports versus Mouse Sports. Who's going to be victorious there in a best of 3? And on top of that, we're keeping our features coming thick and fast. We've also got another interview with Nothing as we say goodbye to Cloud9. It's going to be Nothing and Sir Scoots coming up next. Please do join us after the break here at the DreamHack Open in Cluj-Napoca.